Well, we're just going to wait for Facebook to connect me, but I think we're certainly live on Instagram, which is great. It looks like we're live on Facebook. You can never quite tell, but I think so. Hello, Tracy. Hello, Hank. And welcome, everyone, to First Chapter Fun. Hi, Al. So this is Tuesday's edition, 12:30 p.m. Good morning. I'm going to say good morning now forever. Good afternoon, Kaylee and Jen. Thrilled that you're here, and Carol as well. I'm not seeing any comments on Facebook yet, so if someone is, Hank, if you're on Facebook and you could just leave me a comment to make sure that the video is live and that the sound is working. But I can't see the comments right now, which is always a little bit disconcerting. It's always a little bit weird, so I'm just gonna do this real quick. Hi Pam, we have Pam Jenoff who has joined. Hank says everything's fine on Facebook. Honestly, sometimes we can see the comments and sometimes we can't, which is always really interesting. So I'm going to, oh yeah, there they are. Oh great, I can see tons of them. Fantastic. So I'm just going to leave that there. And make sure that there we go. I'm going to turn the sound off there. Okay, so technical issues resolved. I can see the comments on Facebook, I can see the comments on Instagram, and so welcome to Tuesday's edition of First Chapter Fun. If you have not joined before, this is the place where my partner in fictional crime, Hank Philippi Ryan, and I, Hannah Mary McKinnon, read the first chapter of a different book, not our books, only occasionally our books when they come out, every Tuesday and Thursday at 12:30 p.m, which is the new time. So this has been going on since March 17th. Daily reads from March 17th until May the 8th to combat those COVID blues, which seem to be persisting a little bit, that's for sure. And now we're reading twice a week on Facebook up here on my webcam and on Instagram down here on my phone. Never a dull moment. But so far the technical gods are with us. I hope that doesn't beep again, because that's always a bit there we go. Switch my email off as well. So I'm now all yours. All right. So Tuesday's edition of First Chapter Fun. And we have for you today a wonderful, wonderful book by a wonderful, wonderful author, Pam Jenoff's The Lost Girls of Paris, which is just absolutely brilliant. Read this book last year, met Pam actually, we did an event together at HarperCollins, which was so much fun. It was so lovely to get to meet her, and she is watching today. So don't forget that you can leave Pam comments and questions. You can do so on Instagram. Note to the wise, Instagram's comments disappear once we move it from the live to the feed. I don't know why. We keep asking, we keep saying, Instagram, fix it, and they don't. But in any case, you can leave Pam a question on Instagram, and on the Facebook page, in the Facebook group actually, First Chapter Fun, the comments always stay, so you can always go back and have a look at them, and Pam can come in and out and answer them and comment as well. So that's always fun, and we are thrilled to read for Pam today The Lost Girls of Paris. So if the connection drops, which does happen sometimes. Last week you had the pleasure of seeing me dip underneath my desk and unplug my webcam and then plug it back in again, all live on TV, live on Instagram and Facebook. What a jolly wheeze. But I did that before, so I hope I don't have to crawl under my desk again in case my camera stops working. But if the connection drops, if I just freeze or disappear, it could be you, but it could be me. So if it doesn't correct itself, if you log off and log back in again, then it's probably me. And if I get booted out, I will come back to the platform that threw me off and start the reading again. So those are the technical aspects. So this is episode 96 of First Chapter Fun. I can't believe it. Episode 96. That's right, 96. And if you've missed any of them, well, don't be sad, because we have them all saved on our IGTV on Instagram And under our videos tab, which is in the new Facebook, it's under media and then videos. So you can go back and watch 95 episodes to your heart's content and discover new books. So the idea of First Chapter Fun is to bring you new books and new to you books, new to you authors for you to discover and enjoy, and to have that 1 hour a week, you know, between 12:30 and 1, twice a week, where you can just sit back, relax and escape the craziness that we live in right now in this world. And speaking of craziness, COVID cases are on the rise again, but we're not going to talk about that because this is our little COVID-free bubble. Let's just keep it like that. So I see lots and lots of people who have already commented. So many. Elisa says, OMG, 96 already. Feels like you just started. Yes, I know. And Pam has joined us on Facebook as well, so you can leave her comments there. We have Robin, we have Elizabeth, we have so many people, so many regular people who join, and it's just absolutely lovely to see you all joining regularly. And of course, if you ever miss an episode, just go back to the archive and watch it as well, including the 95 episodes that you may have missed so far. All right, so let me tell you about Pam and her wonderful book, The Lost Girls of Paris. Now, Pam is a powerhouse, heavyweight author, that's for sure. New York Times best-selling author for more than just one book, it has to be said. And she's just absolutely lovely, lovely, lovely. And her books are gorgeous. And she has twins as well, just like I do. Hers are girls and mine are boys. So that was fun to find out that we both have twins. So let me tell you a little bit about Pam. I'm going to put my glasses on because I can't see because I'm old-ish. All right. So this is Pam's bio. Pam Jenoff is the author of several novels, including her most recent, The Lost Girls of Paris. Ta-da! From which we are reading today. And The Orphan's Tale, both instant New York Times bestsellers. You heard that right, instant. And The Kommandant's Girl, which received widespread acclaim, earned her a nomination for the Quill Awards and became an international bestseller. She previously served as a Foreign Service officer for the US State Department in Europe, as the Special Assistant to the Secretary of the Army at the Pentagon, as a practicing attorney at a large firm and in-house. She received her Juris Doctor from the University of Pennsylvania, her master's degree in history from Cambridge University, and her bachelor's degree in international affairs from the George Washington University. Pam Jenoff lives with her husband and 3 children near Philadelphia, where, in addition to writing, she teaches law school at Rutgers. And her next novel, The Ambassador's Daughter, publishes on November 26th. So I'm still trying to get my head around that bio, Pam, really. I mean, New York Times best-selling author, 3 kids, 2 of them twins, and Pam teaches law as well. And I tell you, every time we have First Chapter Fun and we read these bios, we get sent the bios and delve into the details of the authors that we present to you, I'm always blown away. Me, I just sit here and I write books. I don't go and teach. I have 3 kids, sure, but they're a little bit older. But I'm just fascinated. I am fascinated by the job that you did in Europe, and I'm always blown away by the experience and the knowledge and the expertise. And reading that bio, for me, it comes as no surprise that Pam's books are on the bestseller list. But also, she says, taking her glasses off again because they're cheap readers and I can't see you because you're all fuzzy otherwise. I'm always fascinated by authors who write historical fiction, because the amount of research, and this again, you know, bringing out a book, practically a book a year, doing all this research as well that goes into historical fiction just blows my mind. So it's just incredible. And Hank just said The Lost Girls of Paris ebook is on sale for $2.99. So not now, not right now, but when we're done, you'll have to go and pick up a copy, because I mean you could get 5 copies at that price, couldn't you? So let me tell you a little bit about, I'm looking for my glasses again, I put them down. Has that happened to you? You put your glasses down and can't remember where they are, even if they're on your head. I need one of those string things like my grandma used to have. So let me tell you about The Lost Girls of Paris. This is the back cover copy. 1946, Manhattan. One morning, while passing through Grand Central Terminal on her way to work, Grace Healy finds an abandoned suitcase tucked beneath a bench. Unable to resist her own curiosity, Grace opens the suitcase, where she discovers a dozen photographs, each of a different woman. In a moment of impulse, Grace takes the photographs and quickly leaves the station. Grace soon learns that the suitcase belonged to a woman named Eleanor Trigg, leader of a network of female secret agents who were deployed out of London during the war. 12 of these women were sent to occupied Europe as couriers and radio operators to aid the resistance, but they never returned home. Their fates a mystery. Setting out to learn the truth behind the women in the photographs, Grace finds herself drawn to a young mother turned agent named Marie, whose daring mission overseas reveals a remarkable story of friendship, valour and betrayal. Vividly rendered and inspired by true events, New York Times bestselling author Pam Jenoff shines a light on the incredible heroics of the brave women of the war and weaves a mesmerizing tale of courage, sisterhood and the great strength of women to survive in the hardest of circumstances. So this book published last year in January, so you can get your hands on it now. And thank you so much, Pam, and Park Row Books, her publisher, part of HarperCollins, who are allowing us to read from the gorgeous and inspiring The Lost Girls of Paris today. And you will find Pam on Facebook, her author page. Go and follow her, go and like her author page. Not now, but afterwards. Go and like her author page, Pam Jenoff Author. On Instagram and Twitter, she's Pam Jenoff. And her author website is pamjenoff.com. Dead easy to remember. So now let me tell you a little bit to set the scene. I'm going to set the scene. Hank did this last week and she did such a great job of setting the scene of 1926. I thought I might try and copy the great Hank, which is going to be difficult, but I'll give it a go. So the book is set in 1943 and 1946. So of course in 1943, still in the middle of World War II, Nazi daylight air raids killed many people, including 34 in a London school that year. But the remainder of the Nazi forces from the Battle of Stalingrad surrendered. And that actually, from what I saw online, and I'm by no means an expert in this area, but that point was later considered as the turning point for World War II. That is my understanding. Food rationing began in the US in 1943. But interestingly, Columbia Pictures released its first colour film. And you just wonder what that must have been like. There's this awful war going on. And then you have this little beacon of light, I guess, maybe you can call it that, of the first Columbia Pictures first colour film, which seems incredible that it was released as a war was going on. And in 1946, of course, the war is over. The first commercially designed helicopter was tested in Connecticut. Weight Watchers was formed. Okay, despite the food rationing, I'm sure there's a story there, but I don't know what it is. And the bikini made its debut in fashion and was not very well received, apparently. So there, I've set the scene a little bit for you, giving you a few details. I mean, you know, tiny little ones. But now, sit back and relax, and let me read you the first chapter of this gorgeous book, The Lost Girls of Paris, by Pam Jenoff. Chapter 1. Grace. New York, 1946. If not for the second worst mistake of Grace Healy's life, she never would have found the suitcase. At 9:20 on a Tuesday morning, Grace should have been headed south on the first of two buses she took to get downtown, commuting from the rooming house in Hell's Kitchen to the Lower East Side office where she worked. And she was on her way to work, but she was nowhere near the neighbourhood she had come to call home. Instead, she was racing south on Madison Avenue, corralling her corkscrew hair into a low knot. She quickly removed her coat, despite the chill, so she could take off her mint green cardigan. She didn't want Frankie to notice it was the exact same one she'd been wearing at work the previous day and question the unthinkable, whether she had gone home at all. Grace paused to study herself in the window of a 5 and dime. She wished the store was open so she could buy some powder to hide the marks on her neck and sample a bit of perfume to conceal the stench of day-old brandy mixed with that delicious but wrong smell of Mark's aftershave, which made her dizzy and ashamed with every inhale. A wino sat on the corner, moaning to himself in sleep. Looking at his grey, lifeless pallor, Grace felt a certain solidarity. From the adjacent alley came the banging on a trash can, a sound marching in time with the thudding in her own head. The whole city of New York seemed green and hung over, or perhaps she was confusing it for herself. Sharp gusts of February wind cut across Madison, causing the flags that hung from the skyscrapers above to whip furiously. An old crumpled newspaper danced along the gutter. Hearing the bells of St. Agnes's toll 9:30, Grace pressed on, her skin growing moist under her collar as she neared a run. Grand Central Terminal loomed hulking ahead. Just a bit farther and she could turn left on 42nd Street and catch a bus downtown on Lexington. But as she neared the intersection at 43rd, the street ahead was blocked. Police cars sat 3 across, cordoning off Madison and preventing anyone from going farther south. A car accident, Grace suspected at first, noting the black Studebaker which sat jackknifed across the street, steam billowing from the hood. More cars clogged the midtown streets than ever these days, jockeying for space with the buses and taxis and trucks making deliveries. There did not appear to be another vehicle involved, though. A lone ambulance sat at the corner. The medics did not rush about urgently, but stood leaning against the vehicle, smoking. Grace started toward a policeman, whose paunchy face pushed up from the high collar of his uniform, navy with gold buttons. "Excuse me, will the street be closed for long? I'm late for work." He looked out at her disdainfully from under the brim of his hat, as if, despite all of the women who had worked dutifully in the factories to take the place of the men who had enlisted and gone overseas during the war, the notion of a woman holding a job was still laughable. "You can't go this way," he replied officiously, "and you won't be able to any time soon." "What happened?" she asked, but the policeman turned away. Grace took a step forward, craning to see. "A woman was hit by a car and died," a man in a flat wool cap beside her said. Taking in the shattered windshield of the Studebaker, Grace suddenly felt sick. "Such a shame," she managed finally. "I didn't see it," the man replied, "but someone said she was killed instantly. At least she didn't suffer." At least. That was the phrase Grace heard too often after Tom had died. At least she was still young. At least there had not been children, as if that made it somehow easier to bear. Children, she sometimes thought, would not have been a burden, but a bit of him left behind forever. "You just never know when it'll all end," mused the flat-capped man beside her. Grace did not answer. Tom's death had been unexpected too. an overturned Jeep on the way from the army base to the train station in Georgia, headed to New York to see her before he deployed. They called him a casualty of war, but in fact it had been just another accident that might have happened anywhere. A flashbulb from a reporter's camera popped, causing her to blink. Grace shielded her eyes, then backed away blindly through the crowd that had formed, seeking air amid the cigarette smoke and sweat and perfume. Away from the police barricade now, Grace looked over her shoulder. 43rd Street was blocked to the west as well, preventing her from cutting across. To go back up Madison and around the other side of the station would take at least another half an hour, making her even later for work than she already was. Again, she cursed the night before. If it weren't for Mark, she wouldn't be standing here, faced with no other choice than to cut through Grand Central, the one place she had sworn to never go again. Grace turned to face it. Grand Central loomed before her, its massive shadow darkening the pavement below. Commuters streamed endlessly through its doors. She imagined the inside of the station, the concourse where the light splattered in through the stained glass window, the big clock where friends and lovers met. It was not the place she couldn't bear to see, but the people. The girls with their fresh red lipstick, pressing tongues against teeth to make sure the colour hadn't bled through, clutching purses expectantly. Freshly washed children looking just a bit nervous at seeing a father who they could not remember because he had left when they were scarcely toddlers. The soldiers in uniforms, rumpled from travel, bounding onto the platform with wilted daisies in hand. The reunion that would never be hers. She should just give up and go home. Grace longed for a nice bath, perhaps a nap, but she had to get to work. Frankie had interviews with a French family at 10 and needed her to take dictation. And after that, the Rosenbergs were coming, seeking papers for housing. Normally, this was what she loved about the work, losing herself in other people's problems. But today, the responsibility weighed down heavy upon her. No, she had to go forward, and there was only one choice. Squaring her shoulders, Grace started toward Grand Central. She walked through the station door. It was the first time she'd been here since that afternoon she'd arrived from Connecticut, in her best shirred dress, hair perfectly coiffed in victory rolls and topped with her pillbox hat. Tom hadn't arrived on the 3 from Philadelphia, where he should have changed trains, as expected, and she assumed he had missed his connection. When he didn't get off the next train either, she became a bit uneasy. She checked the message board beside the information booth at the centre of the station, where people pinned notes, in case Tom had come early or she had somehow missed him. She had no way to reach him or check, and there was nothing to do but wait. She ate a hot dog that smudged her lipstick and turned sour in her mouth, read the newspaper headlines at the kiosk a second, then a third time. Trains came and emptied, spilling onto the platform soldiers who might have been Tom but weren't. By the time the last train of the night arrived at 8:30, she was frantic with worry. Tom never would have left her standing like this. What had happened? Finally, an auburn-haired lieutenant she'd recognised from Tom's induction ceremony came toward her with an expression of dread, and she'd known. She could still feel his unfamiliar hands catching her as her knees buckled. The station looked the same now as it had that night, a businesslike, never-ending stream of commuters and travellers, undisturbed by the role it had played so large in her mind these many months. Just get across, she told herself, the wide exit at the far side of the station calling to her like a beacon. She didn't have to stop and remember. Something pulled at her leg strangely, like the tearing of a small child's fingers. Grace stopped and looked behind her. It was only a run in her nylons. Had Mark's hands made it? The tear was growing larger with every step now, an almost gash across her calf. She was seized with the need to get them off. Grace raced for the stairs to the public washroom on the lower level. As she passed a bench, she stumbled, nearly falling. Her foot twisted, causing a wave of pain to shoot through her ankle. She limped to the bench and lifted her foot, assuming that the heel that she had not had fixed properly had come off again. But the shoe was still intact. No, there was something jutting out from beneath the bench she had just passed that had caused her to trip. A brown suitcase shoved haphazardly beneath. She looked around with annoyance, wondering who could have been so irresponsible as to leave it like that. But there was no one close, and the other people passed by without taking notice. Perhaps whoever owned it had gone to the restroom or to buy a newspaper. She pushed it farther underneath the bench so that no one else would trip on it, and kept walking. Outside the door to the ladies' room, Grace noticed a man sitting on the ground in a tattered uniform. For a fleeting second, she was glad Tom had not lived to fight and return destroyed from what he had seen. She would always have the golden image of him, perfect and strong. He would not come home scarred like so many she saw now, struggling to put a brave face over the brokenness. Grace reached in her pocket for the last of her coins, trying not to think about the coffee she so dearly wanted that she would now have to do without. She pressed the money into the man's cracked palm. She simply couldn't look away. Grace continued into the ladies' room, locking herself in a stall to remove her nylons. Then she walked to the mirror to smooth her ink-black hair and reapply her coaty lipstick, tasting in its waxiness all that had happened the night before. At the next sink, a woman younger than herself smoothed her coat over her rounded belly. Pregnancies were everywhere now, it seemed, the fruits of so many joyous reunions with the boys who came home from the war. Grace could feel the woman looking at her dishevelled appearance, knowing. Mindful that she was even later now for work, Grace hurried from the restroom. As she started across the station once more, she noticed the suitcase she had nearly tripped over moments earlier. It was still sitting under the bench. Slowing, she walked to the suitcase, looking around for someone coming to claim it. When no one did, Grace knelt to examine the suitcase. There was nothing terribly extraordinary about it, rounded like a thousand other valises that travellers carried through the station every day, with a worn mother-of-pearl handle that was nicer than most. Only this one wasn't passing through. It was sitting under a bench, unattended, abandoned. Had someone lost it? She stopped with a moment's caution, remembering a story from during the war about a bag that was actually a bomb. But that was all over. The danger of invasion or other attack that had once seemed to lurk around every corner now faded. Grace studied the case for some sign of ownership. There was a name chalked onto the side. She recalled uneasily some of Frankie's clients, survivors whom the Germans had forced to write their names on their suitcases in a false promise that they would be reunited with their belongings. This one bore a single word: Trig. Grace considered her options. Tell a porter, or simply walk away. She was late for work, but curiosity nagged at her. Perhaps there was a tag inside. She toyed with the clasp. It popped open in her fingers, seemingly of its own accord. She found herself lifting the lid a few inches. She glanced over her shoulder, feeling as though at any minute she might get caught. Then she looked inside the suitcase. It was neatly packed, with a silver-backed hairbrush and an unwrapped bar of Yardley's lavender soap tucked in a top corner. Women's clothes folded with perfect creases. There was a pair of baby shoes tucked in the rear of the case, but no other signs of children's clothing. Suddenly, being in the suitcase felt like an unforgivable invasion of privacy, which, of course, it was. Grace pulled back her hand quickly. As she did, something sliced into her index finger. "Ouch!" she cried aloud, in spite of herself. A line of blood, an inch or more long, already widening with red bubbles, appeared. She put her finger to her mouth, sucking on the wound to stop the bleeding. Then she reached for the case with her good hand, needing to know what had cut her, a razor or a knife. Below the clothes was an envelope, maybe a 1/4 inch thick. The sharp edge of the paper had cut her hand. "Leave it," a voice inside her seemed to say, but unable to stop herself, she opened the envelope. Inside lay a pack of photographs, wrapped carefully in a piece of lace. Grace pulled them out, and as she did, a drop of blood seeped from her finger onto the lace, irreparably staining it. There were about a dozen photos in all, each a portrait of a single young woman. They looked too different to be related to one another. Some wore military uniforms, others crisply pressed blouses or blazers. Not one among them could have been older than 25. Holding the photos of these strangers felt too intimate, wrong. Grace wanted to put them away, forget what she had seen, but the eyes of the girl in the top photo were dark and beckoning. Who was she? Just then there were sirens outside the station, and it felt as though they might be meant for her, the police coming to arrest her for opening someone else's bag. Hurriedly, Grace struggled to rewrap the photos in the lace and put the whole thing back into the suitcase. But the lace bunched, and she could not get the packet back into the envelope. The sirens were getting louder now. There was no time. Furtively, she tucked the photos into her own satchel as she pushed the suitcase back under the bench with her foot, well out of sight. Then she started for the exit, the wound on her finger throbbing. "I should have known," she muttered to herself, "that no good could ever come from going into the station." Isn't that just, it's so evocative, it's so gorgeous, absolutely lovely. That was the first chapter of Pam Jenoff's The Lost Girls of Paris, which is just absolutely gorgeous. And we have Jess Montgomery. We read from Jess's book on Thursday, who joined us on Instagram. It's absolutely lovely. We have so many comments. It's so lovely on Thursday when Hank reads, and I can see all of the comments, and I really, really want to look at the comments and see everything that you've all written, but I can't do that when I'm reading. Obviously, that would be a bit weird. I was just going to try and swipe on my screen on my computer. That doesn't work, does it? But so many lovely comments. This is just absolutely fascinating, and the fact that it is based on a true story as well. And this is one of those books that just, I don't know. My grandfather was in the Navy. He's a Brit. And he was in the Navy and fought in the war. And he didn't really talk about it much. It wasn't something that he discussed very often, if at all. Certainly not with me. I was 17 when he died, so I don't think I ever heard him speak about it. But I just can't imagine. And this is just one of those books that the Lost Girls, get lost in the Lost Girls of Paris is basically what I'm trying to say. It's absolutely gorgeous and phenomenal. And Pam writes such wonderful, wonderful books. And if you just joined, remember this one is actually the ebook on sale right now for $2.99. So not right now, but in a couple of minutes when we close, you can go and grab yourself a copy. Thank you very much, Pam, for letting us read for you. That was just absolutely wonderful. And to the great Park Road Books as well. And if you still have questions for Pam, you can leave them on Facebook. You can leave them on Instagram for now until we close, and then all of the comments unfortunately disappear. And let me introduce you, or show you, or talk to you, or tell you about Thursday's book. Here we go. You can see that pretty well. The Ninja's Blade by Tori Eldridge. This is back into the thriller world on Thursday. This is the book we will be reading to you. So I hope you'll join us then. As always, it's at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time every Tuesday and Thursday. The days with a T with Hannah and Hank at 12:30. So this is the one we'll be reading from. Let me show you The Lost Girls of Paris in case you joined late. This is what we read from today. It will be up on our IGTV momentarily, and it will of course be in our on our feed on Facebook, but also in the media tab under the new Facebook, the videos media tab. There we go, The Lost Girls of Paris. So I hope you enjoyed First Chapter Fun as much as I did today. Thank you for continuing to join us. Thank you for continuing to let us, authors, a big thank you to the authors and to their publishers for allowing us to keep bringing you new books twice a week, or different books twice a week. It's absolutely lovely to see this community grow, and we hope that we'll see you again on Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So, as always, until then, please stay safe, stay kind, and we'll see you on Thursday. Thank you for watching.